Travel is such a fun ESL lesson topic, but it can feel a little bit overwhelming just because there's so many things you could talk about when it comes to travel. So let me share my entire lesson plan that you can copy and paste for your lessons. Hi, my name is Megan. I have been an ESL teacher in China for over 10 years. I'm also getting my PhD in education, and I want to share everything I have learned along the way. That way you can be the best teacher possible that allows you to live your dream life teaching ESL. And if you're a better teacher, your students can learn English, they can live a better life as well. So let me share my entire ESL lesson plan that you can use for your travel lesson. First, we need to get a warm-up. We want students to be talking immediately once that class starts. Now, a really common warm-up is just, where do you want to go? Why do you want to travel there? So let's flip it and do something a little bit more creative, but also something that lends itself to better conversations. You know, if you've never been to Paris, maybe you don't have that much to say about why you want to visit the city. So instead of doing that warm-up, I like to do a what type of traveler are you? And instead of saying, where do you want to go? I ask the students, what do you like to do when you are on vacation? I'll give them a few ideas. Maybe you like to go sightseeing. Maybe you like to just relax as much as possible. You're the kind of person who likes to go to the beach, go to a massage. Maybe you're the kind of person who wants to wake up at 7 a.m. and go hiking. Maybe you're the person who just wants to try all the different food in the area. For the first warm-up, I usually ask the students, what do you like to do when you're on vacation? And what did you do on your last vacation? Because that's something that everyone can easily answer, and it lends itself more to telling stories and explaining their experience. Yeah, it's great that students are able to say, I want to go to Paris because I think Paris is beautiful. But in our daily life, as we're using English in the real world, we're often talking about something that happened or how we felt about something that happened. So I like that this conversation starter leans a little bit more in that direction. After our first warm-up, now you can move into any vocabulary or any textbook exercises that you need to go through. If it's a listening course, this is when I usually will have students listening to the audio from the textbook, answering questions. We're talking about grammar, we're teaching vocabulary. Choose the vocabulary words that will be suitable for your student's level, but also choose vocabulary words that will help them succeed with the exercises. What words do they need to know to successfully complete these exercises from the textbook? This section will be fully customized to whatever your textbook is like. Now we're going to move to our first speaking practice. And before I explain it, I also want to say that sometimes I differentiate between a speaking practice and a speaking project. And with this speaking practice, it could also be turned into a speaking project. So first, let me explain what it would be like as a speaking practice. Then I'll explain what it could be like as a speaking project, and you can choose which area you want to be in. For a speaking practice, this is a little bit more casual. Students are just talking to their partner, using English in practice. For a speaking project, students are a little bit more strategic. They're working together on a goal. They have set things that they need to decide, discover, make decisions about. But a speaking practice is a little bit more of a conversation. So for a speaking practice, have the students talk about their dream vacation. I like to have a little bit of fun with this. I tell the students, today is your lucky day. The school has given you money to go on a vacation. The catch is you're not allowed to travel by yourself. You have to travel with your partner. So the speaking practice is with your partner, plan out your dream vacation. Now, you can't go alone. You have to go with your partner. So you need to find something that you both will enjoy. This is important because it builds more communication between the two people in the group, rather than just saying, oh, I want to go to Paris because I think it's beautiful. And the partner says, I want to go to Japan because I love anime. End of conversation. Instead, they have to find one that they are both excited about. It can be inside the country, it can be outside the country. It's up to them. I usually will give students some questions as guidance. Where are you going to stay? What type of accommodation are you going to have? What activities do you want to do while you are there? What famous landmarks or famous sites do you want to see? What food do you want to try while you're there? This gives them a little bit of guidance as they're talking and chatting with their partner. If you want, you could even let the students search some information online as well. Maybe the students decide they really do want to go to Paris, but they realize they're not that familiar with French food. So maybe this could be a chance for them to search online and find some English names for some popular things that are in France. Maybe they don't know the word pastry, or maybe they don't know the word croissant, but if they have their phones, they might be able to search and discover new vocabulary for themselves. So that's the speaking practice. What about a speaking project? Like I said, with the speaking project, students are working together to really accomplish a goal. They have a set task that they need to accomplish, and by the end of the speaking project, they have something that they could present. For the speaking project, not only has the school given you some money to travel, but the school has given you a specific amount of money to travel. Perhaps that's $2,000, $5,000, whatever you want. Now students have a budget, and now they actually do have to plan the vacation. They have to really think through the accommodation. Maybe they say they want to stay at a 5-star hotel, but is that really going to work for your budget? Students are still planning out things like, where are you going to go? What food do you want to eat? What sites do you want to see? But now they're thinking about it a little bit more strategically. You could even have them plan out their trip for an entire week. Now they have to make an itinerary. Now they have to organize their plans. Okay, on one day, we can go see the Eiffel Tower. Okay, on the next day, we can go to this museum. On the next day, we could have a boat ride on the Seine. They have to make an itinerary. They have to think about it in more detail. They have a budget. They have to get a little bit more specific. These are fantastic skills for students to be building. A lot of my students, I teach at a university, a lot of my students, when they graduate, they do have a job kind of like a personal assistant or organizing things at the company. They have to organize a workshop or organize a weekly event. These could be skills that we could start teaching students early on. Students also find it quite satisfying knowing that they were able to plan out a week's itinerary of a trip that before they just had imagined as, oh, I would like to go to Paris. Now they have a clearer vision and a clearer idea of all the things they might want to see in Paris, and this way they are going to discover so much more vocabulary by themselves. That's important because we don't want the students to only be relying on the teacher to teach them vocabulary. We want to build skills that build lifelong independent learners as well. If you wanted to take this a step further, you could even have students present their trips, maybe in the next class or the next lesson, where they have to explain to others, what type of accommodation they're going to use, how they're planning on getting from the airport to the hotel, what currency do they need, how are they going to communicate, what language do they speak in that area or in that country, what are some cultural things that they need to know before they arrive. Usually, students feel a little bit overwhelmed at the beginning when I tell them that this is going to be their project, but by the end they really enjoy it. And I've had multiple students tell me that they felt very cool knowing that they were able to complete the entire project and look back on something that they actually tangibly created. So much of ESL and EFL learning is just conversation, talking, conversation, practicing. It's kind of rewarding to know that you made something and you created something. Another thing I like to do, especially if you're struggling with your textbook, maybe your textbook doesn't have a lot of useful, valuable information or activities for the students to do, just find a video online, download a video about, a travel vlog, or maybe it's a short video that's introducing a city. Be careful with the ones that you choose, and I try to keep them generally short. No more than 5 minutes I found to be pretty decent, but that can be a really great way to have students practice their listening, find new vocabulary. They can watch the video, maybe answer a few questions about it, maybe chat about it. If you wanted, you could even put this before the speaking practice, and maybe in the vlog, someone is planning out a trip. So the students get to see an example of someone else planning out a trip and deciding what they want to do before they practice it themselves. The second speaking practice, or speaking project, you can decide, is so fun. I love this one so much. It's called the packing list. So many times when we talk about travel in ESL, we're just talking about the accommodation, the city, the landmarks. We kind of forget about the packing lists. And also, when we talk about ESL, so many times we learn these big important words and we kind of forget the normal everyday words. So this is a really fun, accessible way for students to remember old vocabulary that they've learned and forgotten, or learn more daily life vocabulary that they never thought to learn, or maybe the textbook never taught them. For example, all of my students know toothbrush, but when I ask them, what do you put on the toothbrush? Always silent. They never know the word toothpaste, but they all know toothbrush. So here's how I do the packing list speaking practice. I break it down into 4 categories because, again, this can feel kind of overwhelming. What do we pack for our trip? Number 1, first category is clothes. Number 2, electronics. Number 3, toiletries. And number 4, miscellaneous. And I will actually give them a few examples before we start so they understand what I'm looking for. So for clothes, what do we need to bring for clothes? We need to bring a shirt. We need to bring some jeans. We need to bring socks. We need to bring underwear. For electronics, what do we need to bring? Students are a little bit hesitant at first, and then they get it, which is why I like to go through this before I have the students work on their own. Obviously, we all need to bring our phones, right? But how do we charge our phone? What is that called? Maybe you want to listen to music on the airplane. What are those called? Number 3 is toiletries, and this is a really fun one to teach because they never know the word toiletries, but they're able to see the word toilet in the word. And so I ask them to guess, do you know what this word means? Usually they can figure it out. It's everything that you use in the bathroom. Like I said, I use the example of toothbrush. Okay, I need to brush my teeth. What do I need? Toothbrush. But what do I put on it? What about floss? What about shampoo? What about conditioner? What about how do I clean my body? What do we call that? I tell them this can also include things like sunscreen or makeup or skincare as well. And then number 4 is miscellaneous. And this one is really fun to teach as well because miscellaneous is such a useful word and a lot of students don't know it. But miscellaneous would be anything like maybe you need your passport. Maybe you need a visa inside your passport to visit that country. Maybe you want to bring sunglasses, or maybe you want to bring a book, or maybe you want to bring a Polaroid camera. Anything else that you might want to bring on your trip. Before the students make their packing list, I do tell them to remember 2 things. Number 1, think about your destination. I try to make this feel as real as possible. If you're going skiing, then you're going to need to bring gloves to cover your hands. Maybe you're gonna want a hat. Maybe you'll want a scarf. Maybe you'll want a down coat. But if you're going to the beach, maybe you would want a beach towel. Maybe you'll want a swimsuit. Maybe you'll want a sun hat. I tell the students to think about where they're going to make their packing list as applicable as possible. And then I also tell the students to be as specific as possible. I explain to students why we are doing this exercise. We're not doing this exercise because we're actually going to go on a trip. We're doing this exercise so we can practice our English. We can find the gaps in our English. Great, you know toothbrush, but do you know toothpaste? Great, you know shirt, but do you know the word jeans? That's what we're really looking for here. And I just explain that to the students. I tell them that we are here to learn vocabulary that we might have forgotten or maybe we never learned. Then I let the students just work on their 4 categories. They always love this. They have so much fun writing out their vocabulary list. If you want, you could have them start this in class and finish it for homework. I do have a whole handout. If you'd like to download it down below, I'll leave a link that you could use for your students in your classroom as well. Again, if you want to add in more material, like you want to add in a video, I love using Pack With Me videos, and especially since there's so many fun ones online like pack with me for Disney, so students can see someone else packing and putting things in their suitcase, and they're discovering new vocabulary words that they might not have known as well. Maybe things like lanyard, or maybe they notice that people from the UK say trainers and people from the US might say sneakers. That's a fun, easy way to add in more material and add in more practice if your textbook is lacking. The last thing to talk about is homework. Now for all of these, you could go back and turn the exercises into homework assignments. You know, maybe you could have students write a few sentences about their dream travel destination and why. Maybe you could have students talk about their favorite vacation and why they enjoyed it so much. Encourage them to use adjectives to describe how they felt. You could have the speaking project of planning out the entire itinerary be homework, and next class they have to present it. You could have students finish up the packing list and make a full list. Usually I find that they don't have enough time to do a full packing list in a class unless your class time is like really long, so I do usually like to use that one as homework. And you could always use videos as homework as well. Tell students the name of the video or share the URL with them, or download the video and send it if you have any type of like group chat. Have the students watch the video and answer questions about the video, or watch the video and write a summary of it, or watch the video and be ready to share with their partner about it in the next lesson. Most of the time, I like to do something quite different for my homework, but I found that with this travel lesson, there are just so many good opportunities for learning the deeper and deeper and deeper you go that I really like to just stay with these exercises a little bit longer in the homework. Now, I have more travel lessons. This is just one of the travel lessons that I use. If you'd like me to make more videos about travel, I can definitely do that in the future. Let me know down below. If you have any questions, you can also leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have so much fun with this travel lesson. It's always fun to talk and dream about places where you want to go. If you're looking for more ideas about how to be a better ESL teacher, how to live out your dream life as an ESL teacher, you can always subscribe and watch for weekly videos. You can check out the website, atlasteaching.com, that has a few more tips and ideas, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.